Welcome to the Gavel. I'm Terry Ikumi. We're days away from the resumption of legislative activities, full legislative activities, that is, and it is anticipated that within weeks of resumption, the 2025 budget could be presented by the president based on what we're hearing. Anyways, let's go to the business of the day. There's a tussle for relief materials meant for internally displaced persons in Benue State that's been generating public reactions. There are reports of seizure of the items by Governor Hyacinth earlier. These items were allegedly diverted or delivered by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to Honorable Terseer, representing Kwande Ushongo Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. Well, let's speak with the lawmaker now. He joins me virtually. Honorable, welcome to the Gavel.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I'd like you to quickly, set a base to this conversation and address the headlines flying all over the place. And it's Governor Hyacinth earlier seizes relief items delivered to Honorable Terseer. Could you speak to these headlines, please?
Yes, thank you very much. It's good to have the opportunity to clarify some of these things. I think it's one of the hazards of politics. When people like some of us who were professionals, who left private careers to come into politics to try to make an impact on people's lives, and make a positive change, in our country, when we have to deal with some kind of distractions, especially things like this. Well, I applied for palliatives to NEMA, to address the issue of the farmer header conflicts, the issue of displacement in my federal constituency. For over 15 years, our people have been displaced across the axis of Tura and Ikura as parts of Kwande local government. And we've cried out for many years. The previous government cried out a lot about the issues of Fulani, the thief, the farmers, the herdsmen, and how can we find solutions to these problems. Unfortunately, we're not seeing enough support and enough interest in the issues to do with internally displaced persons in Benue State. As a legislator, one of my major concerns is how to support displaced persons in our constituency, because I realize that I'm not the chief executive of the state. So I don't have the coercive force of power. I cannot deploy security agencies to protect our people when I want to. I always have to cry out to have this done. But what I can do is to facilitate and to mobilize resources to support the people who have been displaced, to support the indigenous farmers who are being displaced from their farms and their livelihoods, and try to get them back on their feet. And it was on the basis of this work I've done and this publicity I had done, and several letters I had written to NEMA to support with palliatives and relief materials for these people, that I got approved a huge amount of relief materials, including rice, gari, mattresses, mosquito nets, oils, seasoning, all kinds of things. And then later we got even more approval for beans and a lot of other things. Unfortunately, as soon as the first truck of palliatives arrived, Makurdi, we packed the palliative at a warehouse, a popular warehouse, anticipatory to then inform the DSS, which we did, to inform SEMA and other relevant bodies that a set of palliatives are arriving and the first truck have arrived. All of a sudden, the state government sent and the police to come and inspect and see what was going on. There's been a lot of allegations of diverting of palliatives in Benue by the Benue State Emergency Management Agency. This has been ongoing for a while. There's been very little investigation and public knowledge about what has been happening with the palliatives that have been sent to Benue to the State Emergency Agency. These allegations have been all over the place on the internet. It was on that basis that the governor sent people to come, and he thought that these were palliatives belonging to SEMA that have been diverted. But when they got there...
Let me come in here, please. Where were these palliatives camped, so to speak, or where did the governor's security agencies pick up these trucks from? Because you say it was at a warehouse, but the governor said it was a private residence.
The palliatives were packed in a truck in front of a popular warehouse along the Boko Road of Benue State. The palliatives were not packed or offloaded in any private residence in Benue State. It is just a malicious allegation.
Address or location,
Yes.
the specific address or location, I guess.
I might have to look into my phone because I have a receipt for the payment.
Because I'm asking this question because one of the aides of former governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom Teviakase, I think it was special advisor on media or thereabout, he had also confirmed, he categorically confirmed that these items were delivered to a private residence as against the warehouse which you claim. So if you give specific details of the location of this warehouse, perhaps it would add to your claim as well.
Yes, the palliatives were delivered to a warehouse called Culture Warehouse. Culture Warehouse is located is number 6E, 1 to Kwange Street, Makurdi, Benue State.
On the 11th?
Culture Warehouse, yes. 6E, 1 to Kwange Street, Makurdi, yes.
Beautiful. On the 11th of September, I presume?
Yeah, you mean the date it was picked up?
The date it was delivered.
That was on the 12th, I think, on Thursday last week. okay,
The governor is concerned. I've followed the statement from the governor where he's talked about the duration for how long these items were in the warehouse. If they were indeed relief materials meant for IDPs, they should have been distributed early.
No, the governor took over the delivery, the truck, the day it arrived Makurdi. It hasn't been offloaded. The truck, the palliatives were still in the truck. So his people came, the police, the people he sent from Government House came with the police and forced the driver to drive the truck to Government House and parked the truck in Government House from Thursday last week, Friday, Saturday, that's over the weekend, throughout the weekend. He traveled out of the country over the weekend to London for a program. This issue has started before he traveled. So it's been over a week since the governor has seized this truck and parked it. And we've made all appeals. Yeah.
So that's another angle of things, because the governor said his directive was to bring the truck to Government House so that whoever was responsible for the truck would show up with explanations. I don't know if you've been contacted by him or his office, or if you've made an attempt to reach out to him regarding the trucks.
Yes. Immediately his people came there. While they were on the site at the point where the truck was, I called the executive secretary of SEMA, of the State Emergency Management Agency. I spoke to him and I told him that the truck was my palliatives that I just brought into town. And these were palliatives that came in from Jos in collaboration with NEMA. And NEMA was aware that we decided to store these palliatives in Makurdi, in the Benue State capital. We were expecting another truck, which was on the way coming behind. And then we had another consignment, another approval for even more palliatives coming. I've requested for a lot of palliatives because the issues are really much. So we thought it was important that we'll have a warehouse in Makurdi, state capital. When we have huge amount of palliatives, we have a store, we store these palliatives. And as we make arrangement for delivery to the IDPs, don't forget that one of the reasons why we decided to get a warehouse in Makurdi, my constituency in Kwande doesn't have a standard secured warehouse that can securely store 60, 90, 120 ton of palliatives safely. There isn't a standard warehouse in my federal constituency, unfortunately. I have a constituency office. I have one of the biggest constituency offices, I was saying, as a member of the House of Reps. So this was something that was agreed with NEMA, and we have the letters to confirm this. NEMA has confirmed this. The governor himself has spoken to NEMA. NEMA have confirmed that they were in the picture in collaboration with me to store these palliatives. And SEMA, who should be part of the delivery process, in terms of the disbursement of palliatives to the people, were going to be involved in the disbursement of this palliative. That is what the letter says. The letter from NEMA says that we should disburse the palliatives in collaboration with NEMA. We had not started disbursing palliatives. We had not started distributing palliatives. The palliatives had just arrived Makurdi, and it was seized on arrival.
Oh, they were seized on arrival. Beautiful. So the governor's defense is this. He says that when palliatives from NEMA arrive the states, they are firstly registered at the state offices, that's the SEMA offices, and he questioned the distribution to another warehouse without, following the process. You're a federal lawmaker. I'd like to think that you would know. So explain to us, is the governor right in this instance?
This is not the first palliatives that we're bringing into Benue from NEMA, as members of parliament in Benue. Several other members have brought in palliatives. We've gotten palliatives from the Ministry of Agriculture. We've gotten Ministry of Agriculture. We've gotten palliatives directly from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. We as legislators facilitate and bring in palliatives all the time. We bring in relief materials all the time. There is no process. There is no rule. There is no guidelines anywhere. Let them show me the guidelines. I need to see the guidelines. If there's a guideline that says that if you're bringing palliatives into Benue, you have to register the palliatives with SEMA. There is no guidelines that says that. Don't forget, I'm talking about IDPs, displaced persons. We don't have an IDP camp in my constituency, right? Understand another aspect, another dynamic to this whole thing. We don't have an IDP camp. The state government has not found it necessary to establish an IDP camp properly to cater for people who have been displaced from their communities.
So in your constituency, that this, yes, these items were supposed to be delivered to, there is no IDP camp.
No, there is no IDP camp. There's no state IDP camp. There's a refugee camp. There's a refugee camp that was set up by the United Nations that has Cameroonian refugees who have escaped the fighting in Cameroon and are currently living in my constituency in a United Nations IDP, a refugee camp. There is no state government IDP camp in my federal constituency. The displaced people live in schools, they live in churches, they're displaced in the communities, they live in community centers, in traditional centers, they're just everywhere. When we are going home to to give palliatives, we make an announcement. People are asked to come out. We've done a database. We've done a kind of database of the displaced persons. We have an idea of the number of people. We have an idea of the children, but they are not in a state government IDP camp. So if I'm taking palliatives home, I have to make arrangements. I have to make announcements. We have to organize a program. NEMA must be there to witness what we're doing because they need to come and see how the palliatives given to us were distributed. And then SEMA, usually, if it's an IDP camp, then SEMA is usually involved because they run the IDP camps. So we inform them of this process and they come and inspect and coordinate the disbursement. But there is no IDP camp in my constituency. So there's a lot of dynamics to this that we're just surprised that that could be handled very easily and administratively. And you spoke about the governor saying that that the owner of the palliative should call. I called the governor. I called the governor twice. He didn't pick up my call. I sent him a message, a long message explaining the entire process to him. He didn't respond to my message. I called his senior advisor on interparliamentary governmental affairs. He spoke to the governor. The governor did not accept. He didn't accept the explanation. Called several people, I don't want to mention their names, including traditional rulers, to talk to the governor. He didn't accept any opinion. I spoke to the DSS, who we had written to inform the governor that they are aware of these palliatives. He didn't accept. I spoke to the commissioner of police. The commissioner of police that told me that he was not even aware that any palliative was missing or diverted, and no report has been sent to him. So there's no report to the police. But I sent my SLA to go to the police and file a report that claiming or making make a statement to the police about this product. He went and made a statement to the police. The police advised the governor, or what he still did not accept. So I don't know what else I was supposed to do. Now the government is saying, we didn't follow the process. Palliatives are supposed to be given to SEMA. Well, it's all politics. My image is being questioned. My reputation is being questioned unnecessarily for putting in so much effort to bring succor to my people. I've told my lawyers to look at the circumstances around this and to see if there's need for us to seek redress on this kind of issue for defamation. I don't know why the governor will go this far. I don't think we should play politics, with this kind of thing.
You think this is political? I know that there's been a rift between the various APC camps because you're clearly in the same party as the governor. Various APC camps. I don't know if I know you're also quite loyal to the Secretary of Government of the Federation, who is a very high-ranking member of the APC. Perhaps have you reached out to him to find out what sort of solutions can be proffered at this point? Because clearly this is for IDPs, and it's been over 10 days that these items have been delivered to Benue State, and they are relief materials. They are supposed to be handed over to IDPs as quickly as possible. I also hear the governor say that this is not political, because he has also, I think a few days after those items were seized, the State Emergency Management Agency delivered some items as well.
The SGF is the leader of the party. He's always been. He's someone that we all respect. I've spoken to him. I informed him about it. I informed him the day the palliatives were seized. I informed him immediately, and he asked me to inform the DSS, inform the Commissioner of Police, and speak to the governor. He asked me to, and I did everything, and we still didn't get the results.
Welcome back. On the breakdown this week, Mr. Clement Wankwo, the Executive Director of the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC, speaks on the internal crisis of political parties and court intrusions, as well as possible amendments to the Electoral Act.
I think it's unfortunate what has happened to political parties. It's sad to see that internal discipline within political parties have collapsed. All the parties, no exception, are dogged by their inability to run themselves, and dictatorship that has emerged within political parties, where a party is in power at the national level. The president seems to be the overlord, and in the states, the governors are the overlord. And I think this is not helping democracy. Otherwise, it should be very easy for parties, which is really a club of friends and associates that come together. It should be easy for them to run their affairs. And where the courts have been brought in, then there's a challenge that that party has lost its ability to operate in an effective manner. INEC should ordinarily have nothing to do with parties, conventions, or how parties are run. The Electoral Act had made the point about INEC being invited to witness these activities, including election of party officials. But ordinarily, INEC should not be the referee deciding who has been properly elected as a party official or not. So I think it's all indicative of the collapsing nature of our political parties, that these problems are there and persist. And that's part of the concern about dragging INEC into partisanship rule. Because for INEC to now become the one that arbitrates, determines, gives a ruling on whether a party has had a proper convention, a proper election, raises the concern whether INEC can continue or is able to insulate itself from partisanship in making those determinations or decisions. When you look at Electoral Act 2022, there were several innovative provisions, including increased use of technology in elections. If you look at the Electoral Act, it gives the Electoral Commission powers to use technology. And in the last election, INEC had on its own even indicated how much or to what extent it intends to use technology. Unfortunately, it failed in several respects, and these failures were outlined in the reports of election observers, including that INEC failed in several instances to upload results into its IREV. There were also provisions regarding the way in which election collation of results were to be made, transmission from polling units to a collation center. These were all observations made by election observers, which we're still hoping that as the National Assembly sets to continue its work on the amendment to the Electoral Act, that this would be significant issues for it to take into account. There is, of course, a larger constitutional question about how you appoint those who manage the elections, the election management body's composition. There has always been the concern that the composition of INEC is determined largely by the executive, the president making a nomination, the National Assembly not perhaps carrying out all of the due diligence that it needs to carry out. And that's why there are allegations of resident electoral commissioners, national commissioners being allies, being stooges of politicians, as we continue to see. Some are even accused of being blood relations of officials of political parties. This is not what was anticipated in the electoral reform that civil society has canvassed over time. And I think it's unfortunate because what you see when you have friends, relations, and siblings of politicians appointed into the Electoral Commission, the effect is that the credibility and the legitimacy of the electoral process is severely compromised.
And on Constituency Focus this week, Honorable Oluwole Oke, representing Obiokun Oreade Federal Constituency, Osun State, is our guest.
My constituency is a constituency where people want to see what you have done in the areas of capacity building, human capital development. They are aware that I am not the local government chairman. I am not the governor of the state. I am not the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They are aware of my mandate, that my mandate rests squarely on Section 4 of the Constitution to make laws, right? But because we are the closer people, or let me say, the group of that is more with the people, with the grassroots. Because for an average person in my village, in my constituency, to see the governor, it's a very tall order. Not to now talk of him saying Mr. President, at best, maybe on television, right? But on weekend basis, bi-weekly, monthly, you have to be with them. So I'm very close to them. So, and I know their needs. So their mindset is human capital development. Okay, we have sent our children to school. They have graduated. Can you help them to get employment? If you can't help them to get employment, can you help them, to be empowered? Skills acquisition. And of course, helping them to get seed capital with which they can start doing something for themselves. This is the major focus of my constituents. Aside that, they also want infrastructure. Even though when they know that that is not the basis of electing me, because those ones are purely executive function. It's only on a wise lawmaker that will be competing with his local government chairman, with his governor, or with the president in the areas of, infrastructure, capital projects. At best, the window we have here is the opportunity given to us through constituency projects. And what can we do in that area? You begin to look at key sectors, particularly where in our constitution, items that are on concurrent list. For example, health. Yes, the local government, the state government can contribute to that sector. But the federal government can also intervene. Education. Both the two other arms of government can contribute, then the federal government can also intervene. And that is why we're able to build primary health care centers, renovation of hospitals, renovation of schools, or building of new schools. So that's the window which we use to intervene in those sectors. We also look at agriculture, right? It's also on concurrent list. It's not an exclusive list. So when you now come to roads, unfortunately for me, not all my roads are classified as grade A roads. That is federal roads. Most of the roads in my constituency are B and C. They are roads that belong to state and local government. I've raised the motions here for federal government intervention in those roads. The letter I got from Federal Ministry of Works was that those roads are not federal roads. So that is where I have limitation in the, but those roads that are federal roads in my constituency, you can see federal government intervention. For example, if you look at the roads that from Akure to Ilesha, it passes through after Ibaraoke. The next place you get is Oweno. So that road passes through the length of my constituency up to Ilesha Iloko Junction. So you can see those roads are in good condition because we're able to lobby and get the Federal Ministry of Works to work on them. Now, you have another road that's also a federal road. It is the road from Iwaraja that links us to Ekiti State, Efalaye. It's also a federal road. So over years, that road was abandoned. But I think sometimes in 2009 and 10, I got intervention and the federal government came and fixed the road. These roads are important because that is where the farmers can bring their farm produce to the cities.
Well, that's all the time we have on the Gavel this week. Thanks for your time. Send feedback to the Gavel at channelstv.com. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.